After 20 years of heartbreak, a shocking knock on the door revealed an incredible transformation. Emma Carter stood in her small kitchen, the old linoleum floor sticky beneath her worn sneakers. The aroma of stale coffee lingered, remnants of her 12-hour shift at the diner. She cradled her son, Jake's, neck in her arms as he drifted to sleep in front of the television, the flickering screen casting shadows on their tired faces. After losing her father, it had been a tumultuous journey, but Emma had kept their fragile family together against all odds, just like the tall oak tree outside that bent yet never broke in the wind. It was now her lifeline, a symbol of resilience. Then came the knock. It echoed through the stillness of their home, shattering the fragile peace. Emma's heart raced. Rushing to the door, she braced herself. Could it be another desperate neighbor asking for help? With trembling hands, she opened it, revealing David, the brother who had vanished from their lives 2 decades ago, leaving a chasm of unresolved pain and anger in his wake. His face was lined with the weight of his troubled past, but there was something softer in his eyes, a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. Her mind raced back to their father's laughter, hiding in the corners of her memory, now tinged with bitterness. "Emma, I'm back," he started, his voice thick with emotion. But all she felt was anger bubbling just below the surface. "You think you can just walk back into my life? After everything?" The years of pain spilled from her lips, raw and unfiltered. But before their long-awaited confrontation could begin, a loud rumble echoed from the horizon. A fierce storm began to brew, dark clouds obscuring the moonlight and mirroring the turmoil within her. As the winds howled, small wooden fences splintered, and trees fell, entire neighborhoods plunged into chaos. In the days that followed, the town banded together, uniting through the crisis as neighbors offered help where they could. Emma joined in, lending her hands to repair homes and serve food at a local shelter, fighting to keep her values of hard work alive. But inside, the rift between her and David grew, festering amidst their unspoken history. She felt torn, lost in her loyalties, her heart screamed to protect Jake at all costs. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The storm began to clear, leaving a path of destruction, revealing a chance for repair not just of homes, but of hearts. Gathering at the town square, faces beamed with a bittersweet sense of unity, Emma felt a burgeoning hope. As David stood on the edge, watching the townsfolk share laughter over shared sandwiches and coffee, the impulse to forgive flickered. But could she truly let go? In that moment, emotions tangled, questions about family, trust, and the very essence of loyalty tangled dangerously within her. The air thickened with anticipation as they stepped towards the heart of the community crisis. Could David be the key to healing their past? Emma stood at a crossroads, her chest tight with dread. Would she allow herself to embrace forgiveness, or would the weight of their shared history drag them deeper into the shadows? As the sun sank below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the wreckage in the town, Emma's heart raced. People were teaming up, helping one another, and working tirelessly. Yet, each laugh, every shared moment felt like a jab to her chest, reminding her of the years without David. He lingered at the edge of the crowd, his presence a strange combination of comfort and unease. Emma turned away, focusing on the tasks ahead. She and Jake had always managed, but with the shadow of David looming, she felt their bond was in jeopardy. He was already asking questions about his uncle, about the man who had left them all those years ago. "Mom, why isn't Uncle David with us?" His innocent voice twisted her heart. Because, sweetheart, sometimes family makes mistakes, she whispered, avoiding Jake's gaze, unwilling to show him her uncertainty. That evening, as she scrubbed pots at the shelter, Emma couldn't stop glancing at David. He had jumped into the work, helping others haul debris and rebuild what was lost, and for a moment, she saw the brother she remembered, the boy who would steal her ice cream only to make her laugh. But could she trust him again? Each time her eyes met his, she was haunted by memories of betrayal, of a bond that had been ripped apart without explanation. Emma, can we talk? David's voice pulled her from her thoughts, deep and desperate. She hesitated, feeling the weight of all those lost years. The noise around them faded as she nodded slowly, leading him to a quieter corner. Why now? She asked, crossing her arms tightly, as if shielding herself from him. After 20 years of silence, you decide to come back during a storm. His expression shifted to one of deep regret. I made terrible choices. I was young, foolish. I thought running away was the only way to deal with my pain. But it haunted me. I'm ready to face it now, Emma. Tension crackled between them, like the fading storm still lingering in the air. She wanted to unleash years of hurt, scream at him for making her bear the burden alone. Instead, she swallowed hard. You couldn't even say goodbye, she replied, her voice a whisper. I know, he said, eyes glistening. But I want to make it right. I want to know Jake. Be a part of your lives. Be a part. It's not that simple. Emma's voice caught as frustration welled inside her. You don't get to just come in and act like family after abandoning us. David stepped closer, each word heavy with sincerity. I'm not here to erase the past. I just want a chance to help. Chilled by the vulnerability in his tone, Emma's thoughts spiraled. She wanted to believe in this new version of David. But how could she risk Jake's heart, ensure he wouldn't face the same abandonment? The sun dipped lower, and silence fell, filled only by the distant sounds of the community continuing to heal around them. Just as Emma opened her mouth to respond, a shout echoed from the town square. Look! Over there! Another storm is coming. Fear washed over her, and she grabbed David's arm, her pulse quickening. Not yet. Not again. Can they withstand a new storm together? As winds whipped around them, would they simply be swept away, or was there hope for a bond stronger than the storm? Emma clenched her teeth as the words hung in the air. The thought of another storm sent shivers down her spine. Panic erupted around them as people scrambled to prepare once more. It was a harsh reminder that life didn't take a break, that their struggles continued amidst the laughter and rebuilding. Emma, we need to warn the others, David said with urgency, his voice cutting through her chaos. She could see the determination in his eyes, the brother she once knew flickering behind those long-absent features. What do you plan to do? She asked, her voice a little stronger but still trembling. You want to help? But you've been gone. I know how it feels to be helpless, he replied, fervently. I want to be that guy again. Let me prove it. She hesitated, her heart battling with cold logic. This was David, the man who had deserted her, yet here he was, thrusting himself back into her life exactly when she wanted to push him away. I can't just trust you, she said softly, her eyes darting to Jake, who was still helping the other children carry supplies to the shelter. The warmth she felt for her son was overwhelming. She felt a fierce protectiveness rise within her. Then don't trust me. Trust Jake, he urged. He deserves to know who I am. This is my chance. I could be part of this family again. I'm ready to face whatever consequences I have to. Emma stood frozen, waves of conflicting emotions crashing over her. She could see it in David's face, the regret, the fear of rejection. But also the flicker of hope. If I let you near Jake, Emma warned, her voice trembling, you'd better mean it. You can't disappear again. Not now. Not ever. I promise you, he said, his voice steady, I'm here to stay. With a shared glance, they moved together toward the crowd. As the winds grew stronger, worry pulsed like a heartbeat in the air. Emma started calling out to neighbors, urging them to find shelter before the storm hit. The familiar rhythm of her role as the caretaker swelled within her, a comfort in the face of uncertainty. David jumped in beside her, surprisingly adept. Together, they worked side by side with a surprising ease, navigating the chaos, lifting items, and offering assistance. He wasn't the scared boy who used to flee, he was a man determined to reclaim his place. In the midst of the flurry, she turned to see Jake approach them, his carefree demeanor quickly shifting to concern. What is going on, Mom? There is another storm coming. But we've got this, Emma reassured him, ruffling his hair and smiling through the unease. I need your help in the shelter. Can you do that for me? Of course. Jake's eyes darted to David, confusion written on his face. Is he staying? Emma held her breath, looking to David, who nodded slowly, each heartbeat echoing her own uncertainty. He is going to be here, Jake. And he is ready to help. Hope sparkled briefly in the boy's eyes before it darkened with doubt. But why? Sometimes, David said, kneeling down to meet Jake's gaze, family needs a second chance. And I'm lucky enough to be getting mine. As the wind howled and the sky darkened, the tension of the moment weighed on Emma. Would David really stay? Could this unforgiving storm bring about a change for the better? Just then, a flash of lightning illuminated David's face, casting shadows that mirrored her inner turmoil. Through the howling winds, she felt the stirrings of a new chapter. But as the storm approached, she couldn't shake the gnawing fear of its potential devastation. Are we ready for this? She whispered, looking from David to Jake, both of whom somehow seemed to form a lifeline she hadn't noticed before. Uncertainty lingered like the storm clouds. And as the first raindrops began to fall, pounding against the earth, Emma wondered if they were prepared to face whatever this new storm would reveal. Emma watched as the sky unleashed its fury. The rain poured down, a relentless cascade that blurred the world around her. Everything felt heavy, the air thick with apprehension, the ground slippery underfoot. She gripped Jake's shoulder, feeling the warmth of his small frame beneath the storm's chill. Don't let go, okay? She said, her voice strained above the sound of the gale. He nodded, eyes wide, mirroring her own mix of fear and determination. David was working nearby, helping another neighbor secure a tarp. He looked back, his expression steady, almost inviting. Emma couldn't help but feel a spark of gratitude for his presence. Despite their past, something essential flickered between them, a fragile bridge of hope. Mom. Jake's voice broke her momentary distraction. Look. He pointed towards the horizon, where the once ominous clouds had shifted slightly, revealing a glimmer of light. It was faint, almost as if the universe was reminding them there might be a way through the darkness. That is it, buddy, Emma said, forcing a smile. There is always light somewhere, even in the storm. The three of them worked tirelessly. David brought in the heavier items, while Emma organized the children, directing them to safety as she'd done countless times before. Each command felt like a heartbeat, reviving her sense of purpose amidst the chaos. But as the wind howled louder, the tension began to swell like the approaching waves. Emma's thoughts drifted back to David. Was she truly ready to allow him back into their lives, especially in front of Jake? Memories of old wounds surfaced. The heartbreak pulsed alongside her unyielding hope. Emma. A neighbor shouted, urgency rising in her tone. We need to get the last of the supplies. Emma rushed over, but as she turned, another blast of wind threw her off balance. With a fierce shove, she stumbled into David's sturdy frame. He caught her, holding her steady, and she looked up into his eyes. For a moment, time seemed to suspend. "Stay focused," he said softly, his breath warm against the chill. "I want to let you or Jake down again." "I want to believe you," she admitted, her voice wavering. The truth was, she wanted more than anything to cling to the hope that had been buried away for years. As they gathered the last of the supplies, the storm reached its peak. Lightning ripped through the sky, and thunder rumbled ominously. Emma felt Jake's grip tighten around her hand, his heart beating fast against her side. It reminded her of the years of waiting, of longing for their family to be whole again, and for David's return to mean something more than just words. "Mom, I'm scared," Jake whispered, a quiver in his voice. "I know. We all are," she replied quickly, glancing at David, who nodded as if to reassure them both. "But we can face this together. Remember that light? It's out there, just waiting for us." As they secured the last tarp, the ground shook beneath them. David, sensing the wrath of the storm, pushed them both down behind a nearby tree for cover. The moment felt surreal, a tip of chaos enveloped by the three of them, tangled together in uncertainty. For the first time, Emma felt the weight of having to trust not just David but the possibility of a new beginning. "Emma, what if David started?" But the thunder rolled louder, drowning his words. Just then, a deafening crack split the sky and the world around them. Emma's heart raced as she felt the ground tremble again. Instinctively wrapping her arms tighter around Jake, she braced for impact. What was about to happen could change everything. As the storm howled, the question loomed in her mind: was their family strong enough to weather this, or would the storm tear them apart once more? In that charged moment, the first pattern of doubt crept in. Perhaps it wasn't just the storm outside that was the battle. And so, they huddled together, waiting for the tempest to reveal its true intentions. Would this storm forge them anew, or would it drown the flickering hope? Emma could only wonder, her heart pounding alongside the thunder. The thunder rolled again, a sinister growl that seemed to echo the turmoil brewing inside Emma. The tree offered little shelter from the torrential downpour, and yet, they remained huddled together, Jake's small body pressed tightly against hers, his fear radiating in warmth. She could feel the tension in his tiny frame, as if he were trying to absorb the chaos around them. David leaned in closer, shielding them as best as he could from the storm's wrath. His presence, solid and unwavering, sent a flicker of reassurance through Emma. At that moment, his past mistakes seemed distant, overshadowed by the urgency of survival. With every crack of thunder, memories flooded back, the good and the bad, the laughter and tears. She had spent years battling the storm within herself, dreaming of a reunion that felt miles away. Now, here they were, caught in nature's fury, and slowly, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she could trust him again. "Stay close, Jake," she whispered, glancing at David. "No matter what happens, we'll face this together." The words felt weighty, a promise laced with vulnerability. A sudden gust of wind shook the tree, rattling loose branches overhead. The sound sent a chill through Emma. "What was that?" Jake yelled, his voice almost lost amidst the roaring storm. "Just the wind, buddy," she assured him, though her heart raced. "We are safe here." But the moment felt increasingly fragile. Then, as if the storm overheard her defiance, the ground shook violently. A blinding flash illuminated the dark sky, accompanied by an explosive crack that sent them reeling. David quickly grasped both of them tighter, a protective wall against the chaos. "Look!" Jake shouted, pointing toward the sky. "That light again." Emma followed his gaze, and there it was, a burst of bright light from the heavens, more pronounced now against the storm. It felt almost like a signal, a beacon of hope cutting through the dark. "See? There is always a light." Emma's voice rose with excitement, a spark igniting within her. "No matter how fierce the storm is, the light always finds a way through." "Mom, can we go to it?" he asked, eyes wide with innocence and eagerness. Before she could respond, the ground quaked once more, and the tree swayed. "We have to stay put for now, Jake. Just hold on a bit longer," she said, her heart in her throat. But David raised his voice above the din, urgency coloring his tone. "We can't just wait here forever. If we don't find solid ground, we'll be trapped when the worst hits." Emma's mind raced. Could she really trust him? The temptation to run to grab hold of that shining light surfaced fiercely. But before she could voice her thoughts, another crack of lightning split the sky, illuminating a nearby shed, its door flapping wildly in the wind. "What about there?" David shouted, trying to be heard over the roar of the storm. "We can get inside." "Is it safe?" Emma's instincts fled. "We won't know till we try," he urged, determination flashing in his eyes. Jake tugged at Emma's hand. "We can do it, Mom. Please." Deep inside, Emma struggled. Should she make a move, risking everything? The voices surfaced in her mind, every doubt, every fear, every lesson learned over the years. But she looked at David's steady gaze and then at Jake's pleading face. Gathering every ounce of strength, she nodded. "Okay. On 3, we run to that shed. Hold tight." "Right behind you," David said, mirroring her courage. "Ready?" she asked, breathless. 1, 2, 3. They surged forward together, a small unit against the fury of nature. Each step felt heavy with uncertainty, but with every stride, Emma felt the flicker of hope grow brighter. Just as they neared the door, the wind howled as if warning them, and then it happened. A deafening crash came from behind. Emma turned around just in time to see a large branch hurtling toward them. Would they make it to the shed, or would the storm claim them before they had a chance to find safety? The world around them spiraled into chaos as the branch screamed through the air. Emma's instincts kicked in, adrenaline powering her legs. "Run!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the thunder. In that split second, everything narrowed down to a single desperate hope: to protect Jake, to reach the shed, and to escape the storm converging upon them. They stumbled forward, hearts pounding in sync with the thunder. Emma glanced back, seeing the branch just as it struck the ground, splintering with a thunderous crack that echoed through the night. "Keep going," David urged, his arm linked tightly with hers, pulling Jake along as he stumbled. With a huge push, they launched themselves towards the shed, the door swinging open like an invitation and a plea. Emma dashed through the entrance, her breath catching as the wind whipped harshly against her back. She felt a rush of warmth as they stumbled inside, panting, hearts racing. The shed was dimly lit and cramped. It smelled of damp wood and aged metal, yet it felt like sanctuary amidst the storm. Jake clung to Emma's leg, eyes wide and terrified, while David stood at the door, panting, scanning the chaotic scene outside. "We're safe for now," he said, but the uncertainty lingered in his voice. Emma crouched to meet Jake's gaze. "See? We made it." She brushed a damp curl from his forehead. He managed a shaky smile, its brightness tempered by the storm grumbling beyond the walls. "What happens now?" Jake asked, his voice small. "We wait until it passes," Emma replied, forcing comfort into her tone. But inside, doubts gnawed at her. Was it truly safe? They were alive, true, but the storm didn't seem to take a breath. Outside, the wind shrieked like a wild beast, and Emma's heart echoed its ferocity. To divert Jake's attention, she focused on the space around them. The shed had few tools and a couple of old crates stacked against the far wall, but in the back corner, a small window caught her eye. The glass rattled with each gust but managed to keep the storm at bay for now. David joined them in the small, cluttered space. "We need to find something to keep us warm," he said, his brows knit in concern. "There might be a blanket or something. Just stay close." While David rummaged through the supplies, Emma turned to Jake. "You know, this reminds me of that camping trip we took. Remember the big storm that night?" He nodded, his wide eyes slowly beginning to brighten. "We huddled together in the tent, and you told me stories until I fell asleep." "Exactly," she said, trying to lean into the story that had comforted them both years ago. "And you know what? We'll get through this too. Just like that night." David found an old, frayed blanket and held it up triumphantly. "Here we go. It's not much, but it will help." The three of them huddled down beneath it, their bodies pressed together for warmth. Outside, the storm continued its rage, but inside, they formed a small island of solace. "Why do storms always seem so scary?" Jake asked, glancing at Emma, seeking reassurance from her. Emma swallowed hard. "Because storms remind us of how strong they can be and how small we feel against them. But we have each other. That is what makes us stronger." David nodded, his expression softening as he listened. The tension between Emma and him was palpable, yet there was something unspoken, a flicker of trust budding in the shadows of fear. Suddenly, the shed creaked ominously, and they all paused. A vibrant flash of lightning illuminated the interior, casting long shadows over their anxious faces. "Did you hear that?" Jake whispered, clutching Emma tightly. Emma held her breath, sensing something beyond the natural chaos. Then came the sound, a faint thud, followed by what seemed like soft knocking against the shed door. "Who is there?" David demanded, moving toward the noise. Emma's heart quickened. Was it just the storm, or was there someone else outside? She looked at Jake, saw his wide eyes reflecting her own fear, and realized this was a moment that could change everything. "Stay close to me," she whispered as they turned toward the door. What awaited them on the other side? Emma's heart raced as she stared at the door. The wind howled, and the sound of knocking came again, more insistent this time. "Stay behind me, Jake," she instructed softly, her protective instincts taking over. David approached the door cautiously. The shed felt like it had shrunk around them, the space tightening with dread. He placed his hand on the handle, glancing back at Emma, whose eyes mirrored the mixture of fear and curiosity he felt. "What if it's just the storm?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma shook her head, uncertainty clinging to her like the damp air. It sounded too deliberate. A crack of lightning illuminated a figure outside for just a split second, and Emma felt something shift within her, an unsettling mix of anticipation and terror. Then it was gone, leaving nothing but the chaotic tempest. David seemed to sense her fear. He turned the handle slowly, the rusty metal creaking in protest. As the door edged open, Emma held her breath, her heart thumping loudly in her ears as the door swung wide. The storm's fury rushed in, but so did a figure, drenched and disheveled, stumbling into the candlelit shed. Emma's gasp caught in her throat when she recognized the face. "Mom!" Jake squeaked, his voice barely reaching above the roar of the wind. Emma was frozen, her mind swirling with confusion and disbelief. Was this even possible? After so many years, could this really be the woman who had walked out of their lives like a ghost? The years had crumbled away in an instant, but the pain of abandonment felt fresh, the twist of betrayal still raw. "Jake, Emma," the figure said, her voice breaking, filled with anguish. "I never thought I'd find you here. Why are you here?" Emma demanded, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and vulnerability. After all this time. Her mother looked older, wearier, but the familiar glint of determination sparkled in her eyes. I came to find you. I had to find us. Emma interrupted, disbelief coursing through her. You left us. You chose to leave. The storm outside intensified, as if amplifying the turmoil within the shed. Jake remained glued to Emma's side, clutching her leg tightly. I was wrong. I thought the storm would pass, that I could chase it all away, her mother said, her voice rising above the wind as if it could drown out the past. But I've realized that running away was the biggest mistake of my life. Emma's heart clenched. A rush of hurt surged within her, but mixed in was an odd flicker of hope. Could this be the beginning of understanding? Could forgiveness find a way through? Before she could respond, a roar of thunder resounded, almost drowning out the crack in her mother's voice. I'm scared, Emma, she continued. That's why I came back. I need you to know. I'm different now. I'm here to protect you. Jake pulled away from Emma slightly, looking between the two women, confusion etched on his face. You're back? Really back? With emotions swirling, Emma could see her mother's pain mirrored in her son's innocent eyes. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but more than that, she wanted to shield Jake from hurt. Why now? Emma asked, her voice softer yet no less laced with tension. Why after all these years? Suddenly, the shed listed in a gust of wind, threatening to splinter apart. The intensity of the storm grew deafening, closing in around them. Was this arrival a tempest too? Because her mother started, but she was cut off by a deafening crash outside. Debris flew into the air. Emma felt the ground beneath her tremble. We can't stay here. She shouted over the noise. I will explain everything, I promise, her mother cried. But we need to get out now. Emma looked at David, who had been listening in silence, a fierce resolve on his face. We have to keep Jake safe together. The storm roared outside, their decision overshadowed by the urgency of the moment. Emma's eyes darted around the cramped shed. What lay ahead? Would they step out into chaos or clarity? Whatever it was, they were about to face it head-on. Emma gripped Jake's hand tighter, ready for whatever storm awaited them outside. Let us go, she whispered, but inside she wondered if the biggest storm was yet to come. With a deep breath, Emma took the first step out of the shed, Jake's hand secure in hers. The wind howled as if it were alive, swirling around them like an angry spirit. She squinted against the stinging rain that lashed her face, the world outside morphing into a chaotic blur of darkness and heavy shadows. Once they were cleared of the shed's threshold, Emma turned to glance back at her mother, who stood illuminated by the flickering candlelight, a ghost of the woman she once knew. Are you coming? Emma shouted over the storm, unsure of what emotions were exhausting her most, anger, fear, or the tiny spark of hope that tempted her heart. I'll be right behind you. Her mother cried out, pulling her drenched hair back from her face with trembling hands. David edged forward, instinctively positioning himself in front of them, prepared to shield them from whatever storm, literal or metaphorical, might come their way. Where do we go? Emma shouted, trying to formulate a plan through the chaos. The darkness stretched like an endless abyss around them, and panic bubbled just beneath the surface. Towards the old barn. David yelled back, his voice steady. It should be sturdy enough to wait this out. Let us move. Emma urged, pulling Jake alongside her, heart pounding as they sprinted through the ravaging storm. Rain whipped her face, but she pressed on, fueled by the need to keep her family safe. They dashed across the muddy ground, each step feeling heavier as water filled their shoes. Jake kept glancing up at her, fear flickering in his innocent blue eyes. Emma's heart ached at the sight. She was supposed to protect him. Just a little further, buddy. She encouraged, squeezing his hand tighter. David led the way, guiding them through the wild storm. But as they ran towards the safety of the barn, Emma couldn't shake the nagging feeling in her gut. Her mother was back, yet so much was left unsaid. What had changed? Was she really different now? Suddenly, a blinding flash of lightning illuminated the dark sky, momentarily revealing the chaotic landscape around them. In that terrifying instant, Emma saw shadows moving in the distance, figures retreating, parts of her old life resurfacing. She froze, dread creeping in, but David's firm grip on her shoulder snapped her back to the present. "Keep moving," he urged, his voice cutting clearly through the pounding rain. They reached the barn's wooden doors, which creaked ominously as David shoved them open. A wave of stale air and he rushed out to greet them, almost welcoming them to safety. Emma rushed inside, pulling Jake close. The old structure creaked under the storm's rage, its walls whispering secrets of past storms weathered within. "Well, we made it," David said, collapsing against a wooden post with a sigh of relief. He glanced back at Emma and Jake. "You two okay?" Emma nodded, but she couldn't shake the unease coiling in her stomach. Jake snuggled against her, still clutching her hand like a lifeline, and for a moment, the storm felt a world away. Their mother staggered in last, soaked and weary. She leaned against the door frame, catching her breath as she looked at Emma, eyes filled with desperation. "I can explain everything now," she said, her voice hoarse. "I need you to listen." Emma didn't respond, her heart racing. This was at the moment where truth could finally unravel all the years of silence. But a sudden crash outside jolted her, the barn shaking with ferocity. Next to her, Jake flinched, leaning closer into her side. "Stay close," she whispered, overlooking her mother's pleading gaze. Lightning split the sky again, and Emma's heart twisted. What else was out there? She could sense more than just the storm, the weight of uncertainty hanging over them like a heavy cloud. "Mom," she said slowly, her tone uncertain, "what happened all those years ago? Why did you really leave?" But before she could hear the answer, the doors of the barn slammed shut, echoing with finality, and Emma knew the worst was yet to come. What exactly was waiting for them outside, and could any of them survive it? The barn shuddered, its walls almost seeming to push back against the raging storm outside. Emma's heart raced in time with the sound of the wind, but she tried to focus on her mother's face, worn, tear-streaked, yet filled with determination. "Mom, please." Emma felt a surge of frustration. "Just tell me what happened. Why did you leave? Did we mean so little to you?" Her mother's gaze was torn, battling the storm outside and the tempest of memories within. "No," she said, her voice a mixture of anguish and resolve. "You meant everything. I thought I was protecting you." "Protecting us?" Emma scoffed, the words bitter on her tongue. "By disappearing. By leaving us with all these questions." David stepped closer, sensing the rising tension. "Let us not fight now. We need to figure out what is next." A deafening crash echoed from the heavens, overshadowing their words. The barn shook as if trying to break free from the storm's grip, only added to Emma's fears. And then she heard it, a faint sound blending in with the roar of the rain. It was a tap, delicate, persistent. "Did you hear that?" Jake whispered, his eyes wide, clinging to Emma's side tighter. Emma nodded, her heart pounding in her ears. It wasn't a sound she expected inside the barn. She glanced toward the heavy wooden doors, dread pulling in her stomach. "It might be the storm or something worse," David interjected, instinctively stepping in front of their mother and Jake. Ignoring the rising panic, Emma found her voice. "Mom, what did you mean by protecting us?" Her mother hesitated, as if the answer was locked behind a door that had been closed for far too long. There were things I was afraid you wouldn't understand. Shadows I wanted to keep away from you both. Outside, the knock came again, a sharper sound that sliced through the air. This time, it was more insistent. The wind howled in support, urging Emma to satisfy her growing curiosity. "Who's out there?" Emma called out, her voice steady, even though her insides churned. "Emma, no." David's voice rose. "We can't," but before he could finish, she found herself moving toward the door, heart racing with a mixture of trepidation and fierce curiosity. She needed clarity. She had to know what haunted her mother, and perhaps in turn, it would offer answers to her own questions. As her fingers brushed the cold metal of the door latch, her mother whispered, "Emma, please don't, stay back." But the sound persisted. Another knock rang out, heavy and resolute. A chill danced through the barn, almost like a warning. "What if it's someone who can help us?" Emma replied, glancing back at her family. But there was a fear behind David's eyes that made her hesitate. With a deep breath, she pulled the door open just a crack. The wind burst through, but her eyes remained focused outside. Mom." Jake stuttered, looking between the door and their mother, unsure what they should choose. That's when she saw it. A figure stood there, drenched, face obscured by shadows and rain-soaked hair, but there was something deeply familiar about their silhouette. "Help," the voice called weakly through the storm, sending another shiver racing down Emma's spine. Emma's heart leaped and sank simultaneously. "Who are you?" she shouted over the cacophony. As the figure stepped closer, the storm seemed to hold its breath, and she could barely believe her eyes. She felt the pull of recognition gripping her heart. What she saw was something she never expected to find. What would this revelation mean for all of them? "Emma," the voice pleaded again, more distinct now, echoing in her ears. "It's me. It's your father." Emma felt the world around her freeze. Her heart raced as the memories flooded back, the warm embrace, the stories shared under the stars. A rush of emotions crashed over her like the relentless rain outside. "Dad." She breathed, disbelief choking her voice. "Is it really you?" He stepped closer, his figure becoming more distinct through the thick sheets of falling water. His face was weathered, and pain lingered in his eyes, but there was unmistakable love shining through. "I'm home," he said, the words barely reaching her over the raging storm. Jake tugged at Emma's arm, wide-eyed. "Mom, is that really Grandpa?" The fear of the unknown struggled against the flicker of joy igniting within Emma's heart. She had dreamed of this moment countless times but never thought it would come. "But you left us. How could you?" The words came out more as a plea than an accusation. "I was wrong," her father said, voice breaking. "I thought leaving running from my problems would make it easier for everyone. But I lost everything in the process. I'm sorry, Em. I never should have abandoned you." "Just like Mom." Emma shot back, a mix of sorrow and anger bubbling inside her. "Do you think it's that easy to come back? You hurt us both." Before he could respond, the storm roared once more, sending shards of fear through her bones. "We can talk later," David interjected, stepping in front of Jake protectively. "We need to keep everyone safe right now." "David, wait." Emma called out, desperation rising. She felt torn in two. Her father was standing right in front of her, the one person she thought she'd never see again. Yet, the pain of his absence bore heavy on her heart. "Please, Emma. Open the door," her father pleaded again, desperation swirling in his voice. "We have to get inside before anything worse happens." Emma glanced back at her mother, who stood watching, regret shadowing her features. Torn between family ties and the ghosts of betrayal, Emma felt suffocated by the weight of expectation and raw emotion. "Mom. What do I do?" Emma whispered, her heart aching. "To forgive is to find strength," her mother said softly. "You've always had that choice." The ground trembled, echoing the storm's fury, reinforcing the urgency of the moment. It was all happening too fast. "Emma," her father's voice cut through her thoughts like a diving rod. "I've changed. I've spent decades regretting what I did. I've come back to be your father, to be the man you deserved all along." Tears streamed down Emma's cheeks, mingling with the rain on her skin. "But what about the years we lost? Can we get back what was taken?" He took a step forward, hand outstretched. "You can change the past, but we can build something new together." In that instant, clarity washed over Emma. Maybe the storm had brought her father back for a reason. Maybe it was a chance for healing. She glanced back at David, who nodded encouragingly, then at Jake, who looked hopeful, innocent, like a flickering candle in the gale. With a heavy heart but an unwavering sense of purpose, Emma turned back toward the door. "You're right. We need to face this together." With trembling hands, she flung the door open wider, welcoming her father into the warmth of the barn. The storm howled behind him, a tumultuous roar, but as he stepped over the threshold, everything inside her shifted. Jake rushed forward, wrapping his arms around his grandfather, who fell to his knees, holding him tightly. Emma watched the scene unfold, her chest tightening, mingled with joy and sorrow all at once. "Please, forgive me," her father said as he held Jake, who simply beamed with trust, the kind she had longed for all these years. "Can we?" Emma whispered to David as she stepped toward them, their hands brushing in quiet solidarity. "Can we let the past remain in the past?" David smiled softly. "As long as you're ready to let go of the hurt, that light outside can guide us forward." Emma inhaled deeply, feeling lighter than she had in 2 decades. "We can start fresh," she said, tears glistening with hope. "As a family." The storm raged outside, but within the barn, those constant echoes of pain began to dissipate. Emma embraced her dad, her mother, and then David, creating a circle of love amidst chaos. Together, they could weather any storm. They would face it all, the highs, the lows, the unpredictable tempest of life, and emerge stronger. Because together was home. As laughter broke through the storm's grip, Emma felt a small ember of light breaking through the clouds. Moments like this remind us that in the fiercest storms, love can always find its way home. Now it's your turn to carry this message of transformation. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let us know you care. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this journey. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support.